All right.
Welcome everyone to episode 2 of the GoGive podcast. On today we have Chad and Jesse Beals. I believe you're partners, right? Jesse, is the first time I've met you. Great to have you on today, guys.
Thanks for having us. You say partners, but really at the end of the day, it's boss subordinate relationship.
That's good. It's good to. So Jesse's gonna be answering all the questions today, right, Chad?
That's exactly it. Well, the ones that I can't answer, the difficult ones, we'll throw over to her.
Yeah, cool. That sounds good. Well, obviously the podcast really focuses on businesses that have social causes attached. And Chad, me and you have spoke a couple of times now about your mission and kind of what you're doing. I'd love just to start off by the two of you just introducing yourselves, giving a little bit of background, and just explaining what you're working on.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Jesse Beals. We started this cause about 8-9 months ago. We started this business together. We've been together for about 4 years. And about a year ago is when we decided that we wanted to do something bigger than us. And this is why we decided that this amazing platform was the one thing that we both were passionate about and that we both wanted to bring up. I grew up in Ecuador, and I saw a lot of hardship growing up. It's a country where there's not a lot of resources. So this just falls really dear and near to my heart.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Chad, I know we've kind of touched on that as well, but I've never really heard like the story about how it all came to be. So even just the introduction is super cool. Give me a little bit of background on like what you both do with the company, and maybe just give the company name, right? I don't think we've even given the company name, given it a shout out.
Yeah,
that's right. So it's Givley, Givley.com. But the company is. I'll let him take over. I'll stop talking.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love the introduction, but yes, thank you for having us. We're excited to be here as well, Ben. So as Jesse mentioned, it's Givley, Givley. And I love that she kind of set up and told the story about how long we've been together and then also how long we've been involved in building Givley. But as far as the story and how it all came together was pretty unique. So Giuseppe and I, we were out driving around one day, and it was kind of at the peak. So last year, if you remember, around March time, we go into this quarantine and no one really knows what's going to come of it. Then April goes by, and then we start realizing, okay, this is getting real. And then it actually, it's about May of last year, and it's at the peak. It's not at the peak, but it starts feeling like you're at the peak at that time, right? And so Jesse and I, we were just talking about all of the friends that we were seeing lose their jobs and all of the companies and the news articles that we were hearing about people getting laid off and how scary it started becoming. And one day, Jesse and I were driving down the road, and we saw this family standing on the side of the road. And at that moment, we watched an individual pull up to this family, reach in their back seat and grab a bag of groceries and literally hand a bag of groceries to this family. And we'll never forget the look on that family's face. Like, it was pure gratitude. You could tell in that moment that that family really needed what was just given to them. Pure gratitude. I remember the little girl looked up at the dad because the dad had handed the bag to her, and like she was pulling the food out of the bag and putting it in their stroller underneath that they had sitting on the side of the road. Next day, so I was alone this time, went to my mom's, was having lunch with her. I just told her I'd run and go grab lunch. Ran to go grab lunch and witnessed almost the exact same thing. It was a little bit eerie.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of meant to be almost, right?
Yeah, different part of the town, by the way, different group. It was just an individual guy sitting on it was a McDonald's grass strip that everybody was sitting on, and this guy was sitting there, and I watched the family bring over some food to this individual. And at that moment, like, this idea of Givley just flooded into my mind, and it literally flooded into my mind about what we needed to do. And I came home and I was super excited about it, started drawing all over. Like we have this big stand-up mirror. And so I grabbed my dry erase marker, just started drawing and scribbling everywhere. And I'm like, this is what we're going to do, Jasenia. She goes by Jessie. It's easier, but this is what we're going to do. And so I'm just drawing everywhere. And I was running into like this massive roadblock. And I was like, but you know, this.
Sorry, it was just funny because he was so excited and he had this huge, you know, thing in this mirror and he was so into it. And he's like, but I can't figure it out. I just, what are we going to do with this? And I'm like, I'm looking at him going, well, really? Because that is such a simple fix. And so as soon as
that's good. You need somebody with the ideas and somebody to operationalize it all, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
needs to be that mix for sure.
Exactly. So as soon as that idea, we came together with that idea, and that's how Givley became what it is now.
So where I'd love to start actually, because Chad, me and you, I've had the pleasure of kind of seeing the platform and understanding what you guys are trying to do and actually the unique problem that you guys are solving in the community. I'd love for you just to give some background in terms of how do people that need food currently get it? What's the status quo? What are the issues with that status quo? And then we can talk maybe a bit more about the solution that you guys have for that problem, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I think as most everybody knows, and if they don't, I'm sure they have a pretty good idea. There are millions of people that go without food every day in the US. Just in our country, it's 54 million people that will go without food this evening. So you think about, I mean, now that we're rolling into the summer months, right? All of these students that have been so used to getting food when they go to classes during the day, they're now sitting right now today. It's dinner time. It's 6 o'clock. They're not getting dinner. That's
crazy
insane.
to think. Yeah, I mean that figure in itself is pretty mind blowing to me actually. Like, and I don't think you told me that before, but even like you think about the 54 million figure, and that is substantial, right? Like that's not a small number. And actually think people that listen to this will be shocked by that as well, because specifically in the US, I don't think people realize that that's going on, right? At all.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem, right? People aren't broadcasting. They're not going out there and they're saying, hey, I'm going without food tonight. Or a kid that might be hanging out with your child this evening, you have no idea that they're not getting food. Of that 54 million, by the way, a third of them are children. So it's a massive problem of people that are food insecure. And yeah, maybe they'll have access to an orange or an apple, but having a full meal like what we're going to have tonight is what a lot of people just don't have access to.
And I suppose just thinking out loud as well, like you mentioned the pandemic earlier on, kind of right at the start, and then you mentioned that figure of children, right? And one of the things that comes to my mind is, as a kid, you have school meals, right? You go into school, and that's where you get the majority of your nutrition, is when you go actually physically into school. Tell me a little bit around, and Jesse, I don't know if you have any kind of background on this in terms of children during the pandemic and some of the hardships they suffered because they weren't able to go into school physically. Like, was that an issue? Is that something that was a problem in Utah during the pandemic?
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of families that don't have access to the food. Now, the schools do try to do the after school program, especially with once COVID hit. There were some schools and some districts that had the meals that would normally, at the times where the kids would normally go and have the lunches, they would have that that program that the families would have the ability to go and drive through and have, pick up that food. However, what we found was that a lot of parents were working at those times. So the food was available, but the parents couldn't physically take them.
I get it.
And also you run into the issue where parents also relied on school transportation to take their kids to school, and they themselves don't have any transportation to actually take the kids to the school parking lot to pick up those meals. So that's a huge issue going on right now.
For sure.
Especially now during the summer as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you've given a really good background and actually some quite shocking statistics around the issue that we're facing in America, in Utah. So tell me about the solution, right? Like tell me about what you guys have built and how it helps with that issue.
Sure. I do want to make just one more point
Yeah.
though about what we're talking about with this problem. Like when you think about, we're talking about food hunger, and naturally all of the listeners may go to this idea that, well, that's what food banks are there for. And it is true. Like the food banks, the food philanthropic industry is incredible. It's been around for 100 years, and what it provides has always been really helpful and useful to the people that are facing these challenges. What's interesting is that during COVID, the need for food skyrocketed. So pre-COVID, the families that were going without food in the US were 36 million. It skyrocketed to 54 during COVID. The challenge with that is these food banks became incredibly overwhelmed. Not to mention, like when you think about how the food banks survive, how they operate, how they're able to get food to people, it's incredibly laborious, right? So like you have grocery stores that donate their near expired food to the food banks. Well, if we just pause and think for a minute, like during the pandemic, the grocery stores were running out of food.
Right. Yeah.
They no longer had food to donate to these food banks, right? So boom, all of a sudden that creates like this massive, massive problem. Like there are no food for the banks to get from
and I wonder as well, just going a step further, they also rely on donations from citizens, which actually, how you just described things, if people have lost their jobs, those donations to the food bank severely decrease as well, I'd imagine, right? From like
exactly. So, and the other thing that the food banks ran into was when COVID hit, nobody wanted to be around each other.
Correct. Good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah,
nobody knew how contagious this was, and so the help that they relied on were the people that were, donating their time. Well, those people weren't going. Very, and so that just became really, really crazy during COVID. It's a little bit better now because, well, we know more about it, but
yeah. So when you think about, so going to your question about the solution, so Jasenia and I knew that there had to be an easier way. And this was like what I started like whiteboarding on this mirror 10 months ago. And that was this idea that people want to help others and they want to directly impact them by giving them food. That's what we saw. So we essentially created this platform where we are the only food philanthropic peer-to-peer platform where those that are facing hardship are able to go shop their local grocer online through Givley.com. So through our platform, they're able to shop a local grocer. Once they save the grocery cart to our platform, then a generous donor is able to come along and purchase that grocery cart for that individual or family who's facing hardship.
Nice. So that solves a couple of problems then. I mean, firstly, they're getting food, which is, I suppose, one, what they need and what they want, right? Like which is probably one of the issues with the food bank. Like they do a fantastic job, but ultimately sometimes you'll go along and you're not necessarily getting the nutritious stuff or stuff you need for your family, right? How does the delivery system work? So is it literally just a way of being like, I want to go to Macy's or Harm's or pick a grocery store, right? So I load my basket onto the site. I say I need all this stuff. A donor pays for them. How does that final process work? How do I go into like the groceries?
So it's just as easy as you and I going to their actually grocery store website and putting your grocery list in, and then you go pick it up. It is that simple. Once a family in need goes into Givley, and then they submit the card to us, a generous donor, like Chad said, we'll go purchase that. Once they have been, that card has been purchased for them, they get an email from us saying your grocery card has been funded. And then they get a text message from the grocery store letting them know that the grocery card is ready for pickup.
So it's like click and collect, like you do not
Anonymous. So the grocery store, the grocery employees, they have no idea that the family need has, that it's been purchased for them, not by them. So it's completely anonymous, and it, like we love to say, it is just it restores dignity to those that, you know, have facing
love
up.
it. Yeah,
So it's
I love
easy, just like you and I, Gabby.
the dignity piece is another interesting one, and again, like as Chad kind of outlined at the start with all the problems, that there's another one, and that's families feel embarrassed, right, having to do the whole food stamp thing and go to the front of the grocery store. So I love the fact that it's anonymized, and they can get what they want, they can pick it up, and nobody's the wiser, which is great. I love that. Talk to me, you said generous donors, so talk to me about like who can fund these baskets. Is it individuals, is it companies? Talk to us a little bit around that kind of process. Who's paying for these baskets?
Yeah, so it's all the above that you just mentioned. The couple of brief examples that we would use is that you or anybody who's listening can simply go to Givley.com, and they would actually see a list of grocery carts that are waiting to be funded, where a recipient has gone in, they've shopped for groceries through our partnering grocers, and they've saved their grocery cart to the platform, and they're waiting for funding. And so you as an individual or any of the listeners can go to the website, and from there, they can actually view all of the different families. They could read their stories. They could get an idea of like what struggles they're going through and why they're asking for help. And then they could choose to either fund the cart in full, just buy the whole cart, or they could donate just a portion to it. So maybe they only want to donate $20 or $50 towards a cart that is waiting. We've also had a company that unfortunately they were facing a situation where they had to do a reduction in force recently, and they had to lay off over 40 people. And so what they did, and it was an incredible blessing to those that were affected, but the company decided that they would purchase these people's groceries over the next 6 weeks. And so all of these individuals that face this hardship, lost their job, had the assurance that their employer or past employer was essentially going to purchase their groceries over the next 6 weeks.
That's great, man. I love it. So individuals, companies. So when you look at like future plans for Givley and getting more businesses involved, etc., like my mind goes to the fact of it being almost like a perk for employees, right? And because one of the things I would say specifically in Utah and the culture we have here, it's all about giving back. Like you look at any company in Salt Lake, and they have giving as such a core component of their culture, right? You look at any business. Brainstorm, the company I currently work for, has that as a central tenet to their employees, right? That's what we do. We give back, we volunteer. So any thoughts to like having this be almost like a perk that a company can offer to their employees?
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the things that we have launched. One of the things that we thought about when everybody pre-COVID, everybody was going to work, they were giving, a lot of companies were giving their employees, lunches or snacks. Some of them breakfast, some of them would order, I don't know, sometimes dinners for their employees. And the employee became to rely on those little perks as part of their income because, well, they didn't have to bring lunches. They didn't have to take that away from their family because that was already provided. Once everybody went home, those things went away. You no longer had access to any of that. And so that's where Givley comes in, because one of the things that we have done with Givley is we have blacklisted, I could say, is alcohol and tobacco. So the companies and anybody that is willing to donate can rest assured that those are not part of essentials, right? Okay. So what the employee or what the people, families in need will get is their essentials. Nice. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, because again, and I'm just throwing examples out here, but I'll mention Brainstorm. They give every employee $50 a month to give back. And I think when you look at a scenario like this, like that could be such a nice way to give back, right, by funding somebody in need. So I love that as a concept for sure.
Yeah, there's been several companies that we've come across as we've introduced Givley, and we're finding that there are a handful of ways that they all want to get involved. And so there are companies out there that would like to be a sponsor on the Givley platform so that their logo and their image is displayed. Others are wanting to participate in helping fund the cart so that when the recipient gets an email, they receive an email that says your cart was partially funded by X company. And then to your point, the businesses are getting involved and wanting to offer this as a perk. So they're allotting $50 a month to each of their employees to shop online and get their groceries. Or the example you used, there's lots of companies out there as well that has a matching program where you go donate $50 and the company will match.
Yeah, no, I love it. And like, I mean, the snack one's an interesting one that Jesse gave. Like, I think it's one of those things that I take for granted. Like, I go into work and I've got like sodas and whatever else. I'm even wondering if there's a play where I say to my company, like, I don't want those snacks. Give me $100 a month in social credit with Givley, for example, right? And then they could maybe convert over. I mean, I think for companies, there's so many different ways to get involved, right, with this platform, which I love. The idea of sponsoring it and having some branding, I love that. Yeah, I love it. I think all these ideas are super compelling and fantastic.
One of the
Yeah,
things, sorry, the other thing we are actually wanting to get launching as well as company fundraisers. I know there's a lot of companies that do food drives and things like that. So one of the things we want to do is get a company to just do their fundraiser, and if they want to match whatever their employees did, that would be fantastic. It would benefit so many people.
So everybody that's listening whose ears are perked up and are thinking this is a great idea and I'd love to get involved, like give the audience an idea of where they can go to, who do they reach out to, like what's the process to get on Givley or start giving back?
Yeah, simplest thing, like if you're an individual that is looking to contribute and make a difference, like we've heard tons of feedback from people that are using this as family nights. So they're pulling their family together, their kids, and they're going through and they're individually selecting a cart to fund. And it's just a really great family experience where you are directly impacting. So if you're an individual that just wants to give direct, then please go to the website. You'll find plenty of people there that are waiting for their grocery carts to be funded. Once you do fund a cart, they get that, they're able to pick it up that same night or the next day, depending on what time it's funded. In regard to a company that may want to get involved and talk either about a partnership or a sponsorship or, as Jesse mentioned, the fundraiser, then connect with Jesse and I on LinkedIn. And then we're really great at responding very quickly. Our company telephone number, Givley's telephone number, is also on the website. You could reach us by calling that number direct as well. But
cool.
Yeah, please get involved.
Lots of easy ways. Well, I'm going to have to go and fund somebody's basket after this for sure. I can make this. I'll make that statement here, and you can hold me to that for sure.
Well, that's incredible, generous of you, Ben.
So part of this podcast as well is really digging into like the why, and you've explained kind of the why behind Jesse at the start around why the business came to be, and Chad, you gave some cool story around how the business was created. I'd love to know, is there a moment that's kind of stood out for you throughout the creation of this tool that kind of makes it all worthwhile, so to speak? Like, is there just one moment you look at and you think, this is super cool, this has all been worthwhile from like a social standpoint?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. I mean, wow. Literally, there's so many.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So the one that stands out, well, there's a few, but with a company that let some of these people go, one of them was a single lady, we believe, and she was let go. And because if you go to Givley.com, you're able to see exactly what the list of the items that the recipient is requesting. And one of those items was a pregnancy test. And I thought, amazing, because she just lost her job. She needs to know if she is going to add to her family, how is she going to deal with the fact that she doesn't have a job? So
Yeah.
we thought, you cannot get that particular type of help in a food pantry or anything like that. The fact that anybody can go and get feminine products, or they can get diapers, or any baby needs, ibuprofen, things like that, it's just been huge. And when we go through the carts, because we through every recipient that requests food, we do go through all of their carts to make sure that I guess it's not abused. We don't want somebody, ordering 10 bags of dog food.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, like you said earlier, not just to try and keep things to the essentials, right? As well. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly. And so, I mean, there's been so many things like, can of baby formula and ibuprofen for their child. So that type of impact, I believe, is huge. We had a family that, on their bio said, we're living in my friend's patio right now because we just lost our apartment. So we just need, and then you look at their cart and it is just very basic, milk, cereal, just very basic food. And that is what that's been the biggest impact for me.
Yeah, well, and you brought up a good point too. Like when you face a hardship and you are struggling, you could have lost your job. And to your point about going to the food bank to get food, but if you also have an infant and you need formula and diapers and your child is sick, now you're having to run around. Before Givley, you were having to run around to those 8 different stops, like stopping at the WIC program and getting your food stamps and then going to the food bank. And so there was just a lot of places to go. I did kind of want to emphasize one thing that kind of draws us back a little bit. When you asked the question about what are the things that stand out that has made the moments of, the frustration and the hard work and the long hours worth it. I think there's an unfortunate stigma. Like if you think of someone in need, and if it's you that's in need, so if you're a listener right now and you're food insecure, right? And you're listening to this and you hear a family in need, our human instinct is, I'm not in need. And it might just be like the way we are as humans, that we're not in need. We'll go, I got an orange, I don't need something. But we really want to change a mindset here, and that is to facing hardship. I think of one of the Givley recipients right now, this particular individual, and there's a reason we know so much intimately about this, which I'll explain very briefly, but there's an individual who went out and created a very successful Facebook group. And their whole group is built around helping those who are in need. The particular owner of this group during COVID lost her job, and her husband lost his job. And they found themselves living in a hotel. And here they are running this Facebook group, helping others that are in need. They have thousands and thousands of followers. And we reached out as Givley, and this particular individual went and created their own cart, and it was funded. And so that individual, there's just someone facing hardship. Everybody faces it, regardless of your income level or your status. Anybody can face hardship, and that's what Givley's for. We want to remove the barrier of being in need, because it has this negative connotation that people are like, I'm not in need, so I'm not going to go ask for help. But what we're saying is, come to Givley when you're facing hardship. Let us help you get through it. And then when you get back on your feet, it's the whole ecosystem of giving and receiving, right? That's right. You become a giver.
Yeah, for sure, man. And that's a great point, because I think once you've been through hardship and somebody's helped you out, it's very inbred in you, I think, to start giving back as well. So I love that. One final question that I love asking everyone before I kind of let you get on with your evenings. I'm sure you're both busy. So we talk about businesses. You've got one that has, social cause as a key tenet of the business, right? And everybody I have on this podcast, their businesses have a social cause attached. What would you say to businesses that don't have any kind of give back activities, don't do anything socially, don't give back to their communities, kind of, what would you say to those businesses, and why should they have a social cause attached to their business?
I would tell them to find one. So, so I'll explain real briefly what I mean. Jacinia and I also own a teeth whitening company. And so when you think about that, that could be a very vain thing, right? So it's cosmetic. People go in and they get their teeth whitened. But we were able to identify a purpose in teeth whitening, and that is we're helping people build their confidence and feel good about themselves. But we wanted to take it just one step further with our company. And so what we did is we partnered with a company. It's a dentist's office. And what the dentist's office does is they actually go into underserved communities and they provide free teeth whitening to those kids in those underserved communities. Not teeth whitening, I'm sorry. They provide teeth, oral care. Yeah, dental care. So they go in and they provide dental care to those children that are in underserved communities here in Salt Lake. And so with the company that we own, that's a teeth whitening company, what we did is we connected to their purpose. So we kind of became a caboose where we decided that we were going to donate a percentage of our sales to them so that we could be actively involved in a social cause.
I love that. Yeah, and I suppose just to expand on that, like, why did you make that decision? Is there something inbred in both of you that, like, you're just giving people, like, why does that matter to both of you as business owners?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's just like what you said. We know what it's like to face hardships. I think Chad and I come both from diverse backgrounds, and so we know what it's like to not always have everything that we need and rely on others for help and assistance. And we're in a situation that we are fortunate now that we're able to give. And I think if you find purpose in giving, it just makes your life, I mean, this is going to sound all self-serving, but I do feel like giving does fulfill your own life, makes your life better by helping others to see somebody else have a better opportunity.
I love that. I love that. It's fantastic. Well, both of you are killing it. I've thoroughly enjoyed this interview. I know, like I said, I've talked to Chad many times before, and I think what you're doing fundamentally is going to change a lot of people's lives. So yeah, kudos to both of you for creating this product. Just one last thing before we go. What's the website? Where do people go? And again, just one more time, Chad. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And first of all, thank you very much for having us. What you're doing, I do want to say that what you're doing as well with your platform of GoGive is just incredible as well. So we appreciate you having us on, and for the work that you're doing with GoGive. It's meaningful, and yeah, it connects. But yeah, so our platform is Givley, GIVLEY.com, and that's where you could go and find those carts of people that are waiting for funding.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure we'll have people reaching out and funding some baskets. So
awesome.
We would love that. Thank you so much for your time and for thinking of us doing this podcast. We appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ben.
Bye-bye. Bye.